In this presentation, I'm going to show you how I teach the Matisse Collage Challenge to my fourth graders. So the first thing I do is I ask them if they know what collage is, and a lot of them, don't, but I say, have you ever made art using paper, scissors, and glue, cut it up, glued it together, and made a picture? Well, of course, I've been doing that since, preschool. Well, that's a collage. And did you know that this was invented about 100 years ago? Before that, artists didn't do collage. What you do every day since preschool is actually something very new, and someone invented it. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So I like to show this video on YouTube. Again, I'm doing this for fourth grade. It's a little young for fourth graders, but I really like how succinct it is, lays out a little bit of his history, because I'm not doing a extensive history. I just want a little brief background. You could also use this one if you're doing a little bit younger kids, and this one is pretty good as well. Again, none of these are mine, but these are what I use to sort of set up the lesson. So then I introduce Matisse and talk about the fact that he was a very successful painter with a long career. He was already, rich and famous. But I also point out these pictures of him that he's standing on a ladder. He's painting really big. He's carrying, these really heavy things. That it's a big physical job to do this painting. He's not just sitting at a desk. And we can take a look at one of his paintings. Now, remember in the video they called him a fauve. Does anyone remember what fauve means? That's right, wild beast. Now, why do you think that they would call him a wild beast? Yeah, it was because all of these colors, traditionally painters had tried to make people look good, to use natural colors. And so this method of using these really bright, strong, not natural colors was shocking to some people. And you can see how his paintings are really vibrant. Some of them seem to be really vibrating. The colors are so strong, and the brush strokes are so loose and wild. Matisse's paintings are full of action and movement and very exciting. And remember how big they were too. So this is a big, exciting, active painter. So he had a long and successful career. He was a very famous painter, but when he was an old man in his 70s, he got really sick. He had to have an operation, and he got stuck in bed. Now, have any of you ever been stuck at home in bed? Yeah. And did you get bored? Well, Matisse got so bored. Remember, he used to be climbing up on ladders and painting on walls. He got so bored, he got this long stick, he starts drawing on the walls. Now, are you allowed to draw on the walls at home? No. Well, Matisse is an old man. It's his house. He's rich and famous, and he can draw on the walls if he wants. Then he got these giant scissors and started cutting things out of paper. He couldn't stand up to paint anymore, but he could make art right there in his bed. Now, look at the size of those scissors. Can you imagine trying to use scissors that big? And can you imagine doing it in bed? Well, no one was going to tell Matisse what to do. And he had assistants that would bring him everything, and then he would cut them out, and then he would tell his assistants where to pin these things to the wall. And he would move them around until they looked just right before he would fasten anything down. And here's an example of what one of his collages, he'll call them cutouts. This is an example of what it looked like. You can see, like his paintings, they're almost vibrating. They've got so much movement, and color, and shapes, and lines. So this was a really exciting new art form that people had not seen before. You can see how, again, active and energetic and bright these are. Here's a picture of him working. Look, you can see his bare feet and that mess all over the ground. And that woman there is one of his assistants who is there to stick things up on the wall while he looks at them and has them move around. Now, what do you see in this one? You can see these abstract shapes. I see a person, some hands, some leaves, maybe fruit. guitar. I'm not really sure what that white thing is. So this guy was already in his 70s and he was already rich and successful when he invented an entirely new form of art. And these were really popular. And he became really more famous for these even than he did for his paintings. So, considering the fact that you have been cutting and gluing since preschool, do you think that you could make a collage? All right, now we're going to do the Matisse Collage Challenge. So here's how I do the Matisse Collage Challenge. In advance, I prepare envelopes. You use folders or just paper that clip them together, but it's best if it's blind and they can't see them. I put together an envelope of mixed materials, usually 8 to 10 pieces. The things I put in are scrapbook paper is really great. I like to put some foil in there. Origami paper is good. Tissue paper. If you have any sort of transparent plastic. If anyone's given you old books of wallpaper, this is an excellent use for them. Chipstock cutouts are good. Corrugated rolls or bulletin board edging, and stickers. Really just look through your own collection. And the great thing is you don't have to have enough for everyone because everyone's envelope is going to be different. Even if you have just, one of something, you can just tuck it into an envelope somewhere. But I like to, you don't want to overwhelm them, with 50 things, but I usually give them about 8 to 10 things in an envelope. And then I pass them out sight unseen. They need to put their name on their envelope. And of course, they're going to have a glue stick and a nice big piece of, you usually use tag stock, and I like it to be at least 12 by 18, but depending on your storage space, whatever amount of space you have, but I like to give them a big space to work with. If they don't need that much and they make something that's really smaller, I'll take it and cut it down on the paper cutter, but I always tell them to wait till after it's done for me to trim it because I want to encourage them to work big. Other tools you can put out, I like to use super scissors. These are the trauma scissors. They're really great for cutting cardboard, wire, anything that's really thick. Hole punch, if you have any decorative shape stamps. Pattern scissors are good. Stencils, colored tape. Really just, look through your supplies, look through your junk, and, any sort of thing. So you don't put these in the envelopes. You just have these in a central area to share. Once you pass out the envelopes, here are the rules. You don't have to use everything in your envelope. If you don't want to use it, you can trade it with someone else, or you can put it in the central area of things you're not going to use, and you can take anything out of that central area. So I usually like to have a variety of things. Now, we work on this for usually 2 weeks. I do the presentation and get them started 1 week, and then the next week they finish. Oftentimes in the second week, they will start from scratch because in that first week, they really weren't sure, they hadn't figured it all out. And by the second week, this shared basket will have really grown. And other than that, all they need is time. As I said, they usually takes a little time, and you can emphasize that Matisse didn't know what he was doing at first either. That's why he had, these assistants. He would put them up on the walls, he would move them around, and you don't have to glue things down right away. Anything that's not glued down, when the class is over, you're going to put back in your envelope. Remember, if you don't want to use it, put it in the shared area, or take some things that you do want, put them in your envelope, and we'll have them for next week. And then the next week, it usually goes pretty quickly because they've looked around to see what other people are doing, they're getting ideas. I also like to encourage the students to get up, walk around, and see what other people are doing. A lot of times, if they're stuck, that'll be the trigger to say, oh yeah, that's something I can do. I know what I'm going to do. They're not necessarily going to do the same thing, but it might make them look at something in a new way. So here are some examples of things that they have produced in my class. And of course, I made this recording for you, the art teacher, but if you want to show any of this stuff in your class, just mute me, and then you can talk over me. So that's how I do it. I do it every year with fourth grade, pretty much at the beginning of the year, and it's always a success. It's also a great thing that you could do at the end of the year after you have amassed a lot of scraps and a lot of leftovers. If you're the kind of teacher that never throws anything away, this is a great way to get your room cleaned out at the end of the year.